stick around and hear some more of our speakers. It's time for me to introduce a man who's no stranger to advocacy. His name is Joe Vipond, and he's a physician who's going to speak about the health impacts of wildfire smoke, something that we were experiencing right here in the Bow Valley just a few days ago. Joe's on the board of directors with the Calgary Climate Hub, and he's a longtime committed activist. Please welcome to the podium, Joe Vipond.
I confess I pulled a bait and switch on Scott. We're going to talk a little bit about other things other than wildfire smoke. Sorry, Scott. But I think it's stuff that needs to be said, so bear with me. So it's really wonderful to gather here in this incredible place with all of you, citizens of the earth, Albertans, Canadians, Indigenous peoples, even if it is under the groaning of military jets. So I'm not really actually here to speak to Carney or to Macron or to Starmer or to Trump. I have no illusions that they're listening to me or even care what I say. But I'm here to talk to you about how to make them care. How to figure out how to get them to listen to us. You and I, we need to talk about power. Who has it, how it's manipulated, how it works, and most of all, how to get it. Because we would not be here together in this place, in this time, if it weren't for power. 41.4 kilometers away, that way, are 7 leaders and their compatriots. They are there because they are the leaders of the 7 most powerful nations in the Western world. And we care because those 7 leaders and their compatriots are making decisions that affect 8.2 billion people on this planet. And there's an increasing sense that those decisions are not being made in the service of us, the people, but for the billionaires, the rich, and powerful. The decisions they make are not being made for us because we are not rich and we are not powerful. Maybe it was forever thus. Maybe there really hasn't ever been a world where the leaders serve the people instead of their buddies. But in the past, we were still able to muddle along. You know, the grift existed, the masses suffered, but the world itself kept keeping on. We, humanity, were gnats on the back of the turtle of the world, inconsequential, pesky, but tolerable. No more. We live in a time of polycrisis. Climate, biodiversity, inequality, authoritarianism, a tsunami of badness. And so it's clear that we are no longer gnats. We are now capable of destroying all that is beautiful and good, from culture to landscapes to ecosystems to even empathy and kindness. It is not the world that many of us aspire to live in. It is not the world we want for our children. So we try and influence the talks in any way we can. We vote in our elections. We march in our streets. We write op-eds, more often than not being ignored. We give impassioned speeches in parking lots in Banff, hoping that 41.4 kilometers away they can hear us and be influenced. But let's face it, we don't have any power. We're not in the rooms. So what makes power? Well, money generally. The billionaires make the politicians. They own the media. They not only influence the policy, but they generate it. And generally, those of us with money are not on the side of truth or justice or kindness or the planet. Almost invariably, they are on the side of only one thing: themselves. And there is no worse money than oil money. There is no worse state than a petrostate. For their corruption not only bankrupts the rest of us, but destroys our world. We're at a point of time in this world where the petro lobby literally paid $1 billion to a US leader to destroy climate progress in the richest country in the world. And it is pretty clear that they're winning. A global temperature suddenly over 1.5 degrees, fires throughout the north of Canada, an entire portion of North Carolina destroyed no more than 8 months ago, Los Angeles burning to the ground, companies losing their net zero pledges faster than can ever be imagined, and climate plummeting off the political agenda. There's no better example of our powerlessness than what's happening right now at the G7. I was so naive. I thought, as the increasingly evident signs of climate collapse surrounded us, as the forest burned and the rivers rose and the climate deaths mounted, we would, as a prescient species, focused on self-preservation, start to have more aggressive climate action rather than capitulating to the heat. But we are being aggressively manipulated through propaganda and outmaneuvering. We are being outspent, outorganized, as they have almost infinite amount of money and power. How on earth are we to defeat them? Those of us without piles of golds and diamonds, those that only have truth and kindness and empathy and a lot of fear. We can look back on those moments where we have won, or at least come tantalizing close to victory, and there are so many. The US Civil Rights Movement, ACT UP for HIV prevention, and Fridays for Future. Think back, 6 years ago, we've never been closer to victory than when a clear-eyed teenager spoke truth to power and millions occupied the public spaces every Friday for years. Climate got on the agenda, finally. What crazy powerful forces did they use to move the immovable policy objects? Organization, persistence, truth, kindness, love, and people. Lots and lots of people. For there are hundreds of billionaires, but there are billions of us. We've had power before, and we can have power again. But we need to organize. We need to be persistent. We need to elevate truth and kindness, and there needs to be many of us and not go away. Are you ready to take back power?
Yeah!
Are you ready to take back power?
Yeah!
Are you ready to take back power?
Yeah!
Every one of us has two valuable resources, time and money. What are you able to give away? Your time or your money or both? Because we need people to do the organizing, which takes time. And we need money to sustain the organizations. And there isn't enough of it, at least not compared to the petrodollars. If we want to be in the rooms, be at the negotiations, we need to rethink what we are doing. The marches and speeches are good, don't get me wrong. But we need more, louder marches and speeches. And we also need to do more organizing, more planning, more networking, more community, and more love. So we're going to disperse today and go our various ways, but we need to gather together again soon and figure this out. Because if we fail, the planet fails. So we need to take back the power for the people, for the planet. Are you ready to take back power?
Yeah!
Are you ready to take back power?
Thanks, Joe. So we're hearing a lot today about change, that we need to change to survive. How are we going to change? That's the question that all of us are asking. Are we going to change it through party politics? Are we going to change it by investing in a bunch of new net zero gadgets? It's likely that we can only enact change personally through some self-reflection and transformation, and then in small communities like this one. where we devote ourselves to kindness and systems thinking and a love of nature. We need to become a species that deserves to survive. We need to become a species that deserves to survive. And with that, I'd like to call up Gerald Wheatley, who's going to say a few words. Gerald is the manager of Arusha Center in Calgary and a longtime climate advocate and on the board with Calgary Climate Hub. Gerald?
Thank you, Scott. It takes a lot of nerve to organize an event like this. Scott put this together. Do you want to just come on in? To everybody on this side, you don't have to stay on that side of the pedestrian crossing. We have the whole lot. Come on, yeah, come on in. Thank you. There's some water here. Help yourself to that. Scott put this event together in just a few days. So it's an incredible amount of courage. We feel like we live in a police state right now. Some of us are working on the Calgary events, and it's a pretty terrifying situation. So I just want to say thanks to Scott. Let's have a round of applause for Scott Deal. So this is my 30th year of doing community organizing events, and I love these events because this is what's inspiring. Whoa! We do a lot of pedal-powered music, and that's what happens when you're pedal-powering a PA. It suddenly comes on. I get inspired by events like this because you're all the people that are not so cynical, that you're gonna stick your neck out, you're gonna paint these beautiful signs like climate change changes lives, beautiful handmade signs. So this song is about not losing our empathy and our honesty and trying to maintain the sincerity. I didn't want to get up and preach to the converted, so I thought I would get up and sing your praises. As I walk through this wicked world, searching for light in the darkness of insanity, I ask myself, is all the hope lost? Is there only pain, hatred, and misery? Each time I feel like this inside, one thing I want to know, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? As I walk on through troubled times, my spirit gets so downhearted sometimes. Where are the strong? And who are the trusted? And where is the harmony, sweet harmony? But each time I feel like this inside, just makes me wanna cry. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Awesome, thank you. Okay, this is audience participation time. So you can put your phone down and you can clap your hands a little bit along with this. We'll see if you can get the beat to this. You look around and you see all these people clapping. It's a lovely thing. This is a Billy Bragg song. Got to talk to him about community development. There's another activist that's worked his whole life trying to spread the message. So you can give a little smile to your neighbor. See if you can keep your rhythm going. You can add your feet. Here comes a military helicopter in case we were wondering. Yeah, give them a wave. G7 events are organized and posters will be posted. When the event is over, there'll be U-Hauls to be loaded. You can get active with the activists or sleeping with the sleepers, fighting for the future generations. Now all around the world, the citizens demand to know why they're the target of strategic air command. They shake their fists in anger and respectfully suggest we take the money from our drone strikes and use it on our hospitals and schools instead. What do you think of that? Now the world became infected with this novel COVID virus, but we refuse to see the plague that is our species. Some of us would rather just try to shop away our greed and fight for our future generations. Are you getting where your part is there? It goes like this. Fighting for our future generations. The Russian war continues and my fears are getting deeper. I worry of collateral damage and of friendly fire. I don't believe that we'll ever defeat the forces of evil by giving smart bombs to dumb people. Now here in Alberta, we've got oil wells, 400,000 drilled, 200 square kilometers of tailings ponds we've filled. Smith can fight the carbon economy, but she'll seal our children's fate, fighting for our future generations. You gotta keep clapping out there. I heard a very noticeable lull in the clapping. Is this song too long? I got more. I got lots of opinions on this stuff. Nice, that sounds great. Woo! My friends and neighbors, they tell me they're tired of the climate. It seems like they just keep voting for their wallet. Then floods and fires and higher and great just catch them by surprise. We're fighting for the future generations. Now, Peter Law, he told Albertans to act like we're the owners. Now the UCP is selling it to the oligarchies. You can fight the carbon levy, but you'll seal our children's fate, fighting for the future generations. Join the future while you may. The revolution's just a t-shirt away, fighting for our future generations. Here comes the future and you can't run from it. Give me a cycle track and I'm on it, fighting for the future generation. The G7 leaders can hide in Kananaskis, but the people and the planet, we just ain't having it, fighting for the future fighting for future generations. Just a little louder so they can hear it in Kananaskis. Fighting for the future generations. Fighting for the future generations. One more time, full volume. Fighting for the future generations. You beautiful people. Thank you.
All right. Let's have a hand for Gerald again. Hey, I see some bike riders. Welcome, folks from Canmore. We welcome you in solidarity. So let's give them a nice welcome as they kind of settle in. Everybody, there's water up here and spread all over, so please help yourself. Stay hydrated, stay cool, and we invite the people to park their bikes and come on over and join us. Come on closer. It's the boys and their toys. How you doing up there? Okay, so Bow Valley Engage is another group that's represented here today. They're the ones that have just arrived from Canmore. They've biked all the way here in the heat. So let's start by acknowledging them and let's give them a great big hand. Bow Valley Engage. Okay, I say save the, you say grizzly bear. Are you ready? Let's try your part. Grizzly bear. Save the. Save the. Save the. Save the. Save the. Okay, this one's a little more of a tongue twister. It's going to be save the wildlife corridor. Do you want to try that one? Okay, here we go. Wildlife corridor. Save the wildlife corridor. Save the wildlife corridor. Save the wildlife corridor. Save the wildlife corridor. Yeah, let's do this together. All these crises are interrelated. Everything from climate change to immigration rights to the war in Ukraine to the war in Palestine to all of these. Genocide in Palestine!
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 Yeah.
G7, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide! G7, you can't hide! We charge you with genocide!
G7, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
G7, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
G7, you can't hide!
We charge you with genocide!
All right, thank you. It's great to have everybody here in solidarity. Just a little bit of information. Bow Valley Engage is involved in trying to save the wildlife corridor right here in the Bow Valley because it's a very critical wildlife corridor that connects two corridors that are north and south. So we have to have responsible development in Canmore and in Banff so that the animals can move through so that they can maintain their populations and thrive. So that's Bow Valley Engage. So with that, I'd like to introduce Nigel. Nigel is going to come up and chat with us. Nigel's come all the way from Cold Lake, and he's going to chat with you about some water issues up north. Let's give a warm welcome to Nigel Robinson.
Hi, everybody. Can I just get some assistance fixing this land back banner really quick? Just on the front end. I was recently credited by an SFU course as being one of the two creators of Land Back. And you know, I wouldn't say that. It was me and a bunch of other native memers who did it. We were just having fun, but we just we somehow change the way in which we talk about Indigenous land movements. If you have fun and you get creative, that can happen sometimes. My name is Nigel Robinson. I'm from Cold Lake First Nations. I work with the Keepers of the Water. We represent, let's give it up to the Keepers of the Water. Yeah. And we brought this beautiful banner today, as well as that one, and the land back banner. We had a little art build on Friday to make sure that we were represented beautifully visually here. If you look below, Water is Life, that sprung out of what happened down in South Dakota with the Mini-Wachoni and the Dakota Access Pipeline, and Free the People, Free the Land. That's in solidarity with all of our people who are impacted by war. And this design here is really nice because it's my friend's grandma's stitch design that she then painted out. So you could thank her for the hummingbirds and the wild roses. So first of all, before I say anything else, I want to acknowledge that we are here in Banff, and if it's anything like Jasper, there was a violent displacement of Indigenous peoples that has occurred here so that people could enjoy the natural outdoors without having to see brown and native faces, which I hate to see. But I'm here now, and we got some other native people in the crowd. I want to shout out to you too. And usually when I come around here, I'm over there somewhere in the Banff Hot Springs. There's the train. I'll just give that a second if it's loud. Yeah. Shout out to the bikers. Thanks for coming out, you guys. Thanks for riding. Save the Grizzly Corridor. Yeah. USA, Canada doesn't want your convicted felon. Call CSIS. Right on. Stop the death machine and its accomplices. Thank you. That's a beautiful sign. Is this humanitarian aid? I don't think so. Take a look at that sign, everybody. We cannot unsee. Set Ukrainian kids free. That sounds like a chant. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. I want to really acknowledge everybody impacted by war here today. That's a terrible thing. That's an active de-evolution of our species. And coming together and sharing ideas and figuring out how we can do things a little bit better, that's an active evolution of our species. So it's a beautiful thing to be here with you all today in a good and kind way. And you could say that they're trying to do that at G7 too, but as far as I know, it was just native folks who were doing a ceremony at the front, and there's no native people at the table, which is very unfortunate. I want to share with you guys some knowledge that you may not have yet. One of the things that is said about Indigenous people is that here in North America, our hunter-gatherer societies were known as the most sustainable societies on the planet. And our languages and our worldviews still continue to exist today. And in a world that is ran on capitalism and greed, sustainability is not something so thought about. So Indigenous people have an incredible opportunity, and non-Indigenous people have an incredible opportunity to receive that knowledge by just listening to our voices. And I think that's something that we can all we should all take some time to think about. My relatives over here from Ukraine, they mentioned residential school. Residential school, the factual reality of it was to disempower Indigenous people, take our land, take our culture. They knew that our culture contained a lot of power, and our culture was not based off of greed and genocide. It was based on at the center of it, keeping communities and families strong. And that is something that is dangerous to capitalism. So that's something that they attacked early on. And they went ahead, and some group way back in the day, they had this idea that came together and said, we need to make sure that every single person, from the smallest child to the oldest person, thinks that Indigenous people are lesser than us. and that will justify us being able to take their land and take advantage of their people. And that has happened all throughout the world, and it's a terrible thing. So I really want to condemn colonialism here today, and I want G7 to start acknowledging that colonialism has brought forth a lot of the problems that we are living with today. This thing with war is it's a prime example of that. Thank you. Beyond that, I want to talk about some specific issues as well, but before I do that, I want to take a moment to really acknowledge water. If you have some water with you, if you have a water bottle, if you have a little cup, just take a moment with me to lift it up and acknowledge it. You know, the majority of your body is made up of water. Water is what gives you life. Water is life. So let's take a minute to just acknowledge that water and then take a drink of it. We with Keepers of the Water, we believe that if you're going to speak out and stand up for water, you need to have a relationship with it. You need to have a respect for it. And for us, that involves ceremony. And mindfulness is a type of ceremony, I would say. So anytime you guys need to get grounded, you guys drink a little bit of water. That'll make you feel a little bit better. Beyond that, I will tell you, if you're ever feeling sick and everything else you're vomiting up, water is the one thing that will probably stay down. It's sacred that way. It's a medicine for you and your body. So when I say water is, can you say life? Water is life. Water is life. Water is life. Water is life. And I want to say land back is not just for Native people. It's for Palestinians, it's for Ukrainians, it's for my Filipino relatives, it's for all our people. Land back is for all of us. And if you guys are big readers, I'd suggest you read a book called The Reconciliation Manifesto by Arthur Manuel. He has talked in there about how if Indigenous people achieve land back, it doesn't mean we're going to send absolutely every back to where they came from. We in Indigenous ceremony and Indigenous worldview, all of your lives and all of your existences is more important than us being able to just benefit from all of the land and resources that we live on. So I would say to you that land back is not a scary thing. You know, it's justice, and justice stands on truth, and we stand on truth right here, right now. So I would advise you all to look a little bit more into what land back's about from one of the people who decided to have created it, and say, yeah, I'm down with land back. So when I say land, you say back. Land. Back. Land. Back. Land. Back. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to start talking a little bit about the particular issues that I wanted to get into for Keepers of the Water today. The first thing was, we have the right to gather. That's very important for everyone to acknowledge. Yesterday, the level of policing that happened in Calgary was absolutely insane. We don't have as many cops. So, yeah, shame. We don't have as many cops here today, but I would say there was about 200 police deployed yesterday. They brought up a whole bunch of police from Edmonton as well in buses. They were fully decked out in SWAT uniform. They had pepper guns. If that march had tilted off a little bit, things would have been really bad for us. So I want to acknowledge that utilizing the majority of their budget for security is just to further police and villainize climate activists, when all we are really trying to do is ensure livelihoods for those yet to come. That's very important. The second thing I want to bring up, Carney in his attempts to get to being in his campaign, he was talking a lot about carbon capture and storage technologies. This is a greenwashing, false solution. I know a lot of folks here might have heard it's a good thing, but what they're essentially doing is they're pulling carbon out of these oil and gas facilities, putting a whole bunch of chemicals in it, pressurizing it and turning it into a liquid, and putting it into pipelines that will then run down into the Cold Lake area and south of Elk Point to a so-called storage site. into the basal Cambrian sandstone, and it is the largest proposed carbon capture pipeline and storage project on the planet. And I personally don't want to see 10 to 20 million tons of liquidized carbon being shot into the earth over the next 50 years. And beyond that, we do not know how that much liquid carbon will react over that period of time. And beyond that, if there's an earthquake, or if the basal Cambrian sandstone doesn't sit properly, it could just bubble up and escape into the air. I would suggest you guys check out the Watershed Sentinel. Myself and Jeremy here did a wonderful little webinar where you guys can learn a little bit more about that. We dived pretty deep into it, and I would suggest you guys check that out. Beyond that, we really want to let you guys know that the release of tailing ponds into the Athabasca River is not safe. It's not a good idea. And the Athabasca River is a water source that millions upon millions of not only humans but animals and the environment rely on to live. So if that becomes contaminated, it can have absolutely horrible impacts on our communities and on our environment. And the third point I really want to bring up today is I really want to stress that the eastern slopes, the coal mining leases, that needs to be stopped. What's that? Damn straight. These Australian mining companies, Canadian mining companies are one of the worst on the planet, but Australian mining companies are pretty bad too, and allegedly they're the primary people trying to get all these new coal leases happening, and Danielle Smith wants to make it happen. And I want to tell you guys, it's not a good idea. This place we live right now is incredible. Well, this I'm just a visitor here, but whenever I come here, it's an honor to be here. It's a beautiful place, and there's been a lot of work done, not just by Indigenous people, by ranchers, by climate activists, by politicians, to enshrine that this place will be pristine for a millennia. And there's enough extraction. There is more than enough extraction. The oil and gas industries do not need to be expanded. We don't need tailing ponds to get much bigger. Those tailing ponds, they are already at an extremely large size, and they are very dangerous. We've had tailing ponds leak over into lakes and rivers, and they cause a lot of harm to those lakes and rivers. We with Keepers of the Water, we do water testing. We test at about 40 different sites, about 4 times a year, so we keep an eye on the waters and what's happening with them. And these fires are impacting them. The extraction is impacting them. There's many different things that are happening to our waters and our lands that we stand up and we try to advocate for. So with that said, I want to say to all of you, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to keep it all. It's hard to keep it all at front of mind, but it's all important. It's all part of the same fight. Liberation is for all of us. If for myself, if any one of you was being harmed right now, that would be my issue too. I would not want to see that happen. If cops, if fascists, if anybody was coming at you guys trying to harm you, I would try to be a part of the solution of stopping that harm. And I hope all of you guys feel the same way. We got to continue to share ideas and continue this political education. If we don't do that, we will be working backwards. So being here, I really want to commend all of you. You are being a part of the evolution of our species. We need to evolve at a lot faster if we're going to stick around, because the planet's going to be okay, I could assure you of that. But human beings, and not just human beings, the animals that also live in the environments that we live in, they will all die out. And we owe animals, we owe plants, we owe them a future too, because we did this, we as human beings. And I would suggest every single one of you, if you can, pick up a book. There's a number of books. I brought a couple books here today. One by Ellen Gabriel from Kananaskis, if you can read that. It just dropped in September of 2024. It's really good. As well as Nick Estes's book that outlines Standing Rock. And then, as I mentioned before, the Reconciliation Manifesto by Arthur Manuel. His dad's book, George Manuel, The Fourth World, is also really good. I suggest you read that. And please keep in touch with the Keepers of the Water. Keepers of the Water, if you care about water, if you care about the land, you're a keeper of the water. So check in with us, sign up for a mailing list. And, there's so many great allies here today. Like Joe Vapon, I've been keeping an eye on what the Physicians for the Environment have been doing for a long time, and we've been working with them for a long time, and I really respect them. And the Calgary Climate Hub, I've just met a few of them this past weekend. They've been awesome. We dropped a big-ass banner in Calgary on Saturday. It was a lot of fun. It got on some of the news. Check that out if you can. And yeah, besides that, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, so much for being here and standing with us. And especially because I don't know if I'm the only Indigenous speaker here today, but if I am, I really want to say that for us as Indigenous people, it means a lot for you to stand with us. For our communities, we have been disempowered, and we've been disenfranchised from our lands a lot of the time. And for us, our communities, we suffer from not just climate change. We suffer from alcoholism, suicide, poverty, all of these different things. And in a system like that, you don't have many role models. You don't have many leaders. And this thing that we're doing right now, advocacy, standing up for ourselves, this is one of the places we can see Indigenous brilliance. So if any of you Native kids out there who might be watching on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, I just want to say, if you were looking for an Indigenous person who will fight for you, who will stand up for you, keep an eye on people who are fighting for their land, Indigenous people who are fighting for their land. There is Indigenous brilliance, and Native people are beautiful. Thanks a lot, everybody. Masicho.
That was great. Thanks, Nigel. Let's give him a hand again.
Good job, Nigel!
Well, folks, I want to do a song. I think we've heard some very well-spoken folks this afternoon, and we've been touched both in the head and in the heart by what they've said. And I want to sing a song now that is going to bring us all together. And it's called Peace in Our Hearts. That's what we need more of, is some peace in our hearts. Just switch to this mic. There's a great part in this for you. I invite you to sing along with me. The words are, we're going to walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. You want to try with me? It goes like this. We're going to walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. Can you try that with me? Let's sing it. We're gonna walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. Together, we're gonna walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk together arm in arm with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk together arm in arm, so our sisters and our brothers don't come to harm. We got some peace in our hearts. Okay, the next one is we're gonna walk with every color and tribe. Every color and tribe. We're gonna walk with every color and tribe, with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk with every color and tribe, with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk with every color and tribe. We're gonna stand together, 'cause we got a good vibe. We know we got peace in our hearts. We're gonna stand for the earth and the children too. You ready? We're gonna stand for the earth and the children too, with peace in our hearts. We're gonna stand for the earth and the children too, with peace in our hearts. We're gonna stand for the feeling on the children too, and we're gonna get like we on too, 'cause we know we got peace in our hearts. Back to the first verse, you ready? Arm in arm, we gonna walk together, arm in arm, with peace in our hearts. We're gonna walk together, arm in arm, with peace in our hearts. Gonna walk together, arm in arm, so our sisters and our brothers won't come to any harm. We know we got peace in our hearts. Let me hear you. We know we got peace in our hearts. Louder! We know we got peace in our hearts. All together. We know we got peace in our hearts. Thanks a lot. We've got a couple more speakers. I'm just going to do a song. You know, there's been, Nigel was really eloquent this afternoon when he spoke about conflict and war and the need to turn it down a notch. And so were our Ukrainian sisters that were here. Thanks for coming, Ukrainians. So were the Palestinians. So this song is a song from a long time ago that was written by Donovan and sort of made famous by Buffy St. Marie. It's called Universal Soldier. He's 5'2" and he's 6'4". He fights with missiles and with spears. He's all of 17 and he's all of 31. He's been a soldier for 1,000 years. He's a Catholic, he's a Hindu, he's an atheist, a Jain. He's a Buddhist and a Baptist and a Jew. And he knows he shouldn't kill, but he knows he always will. Kill you for me, my friend, and me for you. And he's fighting for Canada, he's fighting for France, he's fighting for the USA. And he's fighting for Russia, and he's fighting for Ukraine. And he thinks we'll put an end to war this way. Yeah, he's the universal soldier, and he really is to blame. His orders come from far away no more. They come from here and there, and you and me, and brother, can't you see? This is not the way to put an end to war. Thank you so much. And thanks to each and every one of you for coming out and believing in this cause enough to show up and be here. We've got a couple more speakers for you this afternoon. I'd like to invite the folks from the Falun Gong Society of Calgary to come up and say a few words. I think we're going to start off with Jeffrey. These folks were here really early this morning doing Tai Chi. Like, what better way to start a rally than some calming Tai Chi to get the spirit healthy and happy? Here's Jeffrey.
Hello, everyone. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we are Falun Gong practitioner from Calgary. We call the Falun Dafa Association of Calgary. We are here just want to have information of tell the G7 leaders. We want them to help us to stop CCP's persecution on Falun Dafa, on Falun Gong in China and overseas. Also, we want the our leader to stop the organ harvesting from Chinese practitioners and the Chinese people and other people in the world. So what's the Falun Gong? Falun Gong is the one kind of Qigong or one kind of exercise or meditation. It's good. It's good for people's health, for mind and body and spirit. Even this so nice, exercise or meditation, it's even persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party (CCP) for 26 years. You know why? Chinese government, they don't allow the people have their own belief, have their own freedom. We have only one media in China called CCTV. So one media, no more media in China. If you see different voice, be careful. You will be in danger. You will be killed sometime, somewhere. So I would like to introduce Luke Zhang to tell the G7 leaders what we want to express. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. First, I would like to introduce briefly about Falun Gong, Falun Dafa. It is an ancient Chinese spiritual practice that can improve your mind and body, just like Tai Chi, but we have a guiding principle of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. And following the principles, we have 5 exercises that can improve your body, and that include a meditative exercise, and that lasts for 1 hour. And actually, I would like to introduce briefly about the persecution of Falun Gong in China. That is starting from 1999. It has been 26 years since then, and it's still ongoing. And the Falun Gong practitioners has been subjected to horrific and brutal persecution by the CCP for 26 years just for their belief. And Minghui.org, that is a website that reported that there are 5,224 named Falun Gong practitioners who have been persecuted to death, adding the many more who have disappeared without a trace. The number is difficult to estimate. We hereby call on the leaders of the 7 countries to help stop the brutal persecution of Falun Gong. The CCP has been forcing live organs to be harvested for many years. It is a crime against humanity and extremely cruel. It is an evil that has never been seen on this planet. Countless Falun Gong practitioners, Uyghurs, and Christians have been fired from their public positions, forced to drop out of school, illegally imprisoned, and mentally tortured, so that many people have eventually been persecuted by forced organ harvesting. We hereby call on the leaders of the 7 countries to help stop the crime of forced organ harvesting against Falun Gong practitioners and the Chinese people. Our purpose here is to help the world, to tell the world the truth. Please help us stop the persecution and stop the crime against humanity. Thank you.
Just a moment. Yeah, if you do some translation, it's save time.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, we know now the world is very, very chaotic. Like earthquake, like a war. We support Ukraine. Of course, there are still many places have war, have earthquake, have something, very, very bad.
Yeah, actually most of them are, for Russian-Ukrainian war, the Chinese Communist Party played a key role in supporting Russia in military supplies, food, and other equipments.
Yeah, not only the Russia and the Ukraine war, but also some poor country like North Korea and Vietnam and Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Yeah, many countries like Cuba as well, all the poor country. You know why? This is the communists over there. Communists do everything there. When we were young, we were told, we were brainwashed by Chinese Communist Party. Yes, when I was a small pupil, I was told, let red flags insert on each corner of the world. This is only one word, but you don't know how bloody, background behind. We know let me say in Chinese. 我们知道有很多中国的间谍，中共的间谍在这个西方的国家。
And the Chinese Communist Party is not only exporting corruption, also conducting espionage activities in Western countries, including Canada.
Yeah, not only including Canada, USA， 像这个洛杉矶这个暴动背后就是有中共在后面支持。
As we know that the riots in Los Angeles, the unrest in Los Angeles, the Chinese Communist Party played a key role in backing, is funding the activities, and there's a billionaire.
Okay.
There's a billionaire that supporting the event. His wife is Chinese.
Also Iran is also not a good country. So why I say so? Because we don't know how they can, do something like that. This is the root. Who is the root? The root is the Chinese Communist Party. So all the chaotic things, it's just caused by Chinese Communist Party. They have their black hand behind. So when you see, the Russian, the war between Russia and Ukraine, you must know this is a Chinese Communist Party hand behind. They export a lot of military, material. We don't know. They output some chemical products for making a bomb. They output
uranium.
Iran. Yeah, Iran. So all the problem is caused by Chinese Communist Party. This is the evil thing. So I would suggest people we can down with Chinese Communist Party evil. This is if you want the world peaceful and safe, must down with this evil Chinese Communist Party. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. We have one more speaker. I just wanted to, again, thank everyone for coming out and to say a few words about what's going on south of the border. You know, fascism arrived in the 20th century. It's happening again, but this time it's not happening with goose steps and Sieg Heils. It's something else. We're calling it autocracy 3.0. And it's branded, it's broadcast, it's billionaire backed, and it takes our institutions, it hollows them up, and then it makes them ineffective. We're seeing that day by day in the US. So I wanted to leave you with some hope. I think that we're not gonna fight this with fact checks and policy memos. We're really in a battle for meaning. So I invite everyone here to, you know, root yourself in care, in solidarity, and in truth. And what we're doing today is really, you know, coming together in a public sphere and taking back public places. We need to take back schools, libraries, clinics, parks, because these aren't just the footnotes of democracy, they are democracy. So I invite you to start to live that and take what you've heard today as meaning and as something that you can carry back into your personal lives. So with that, we've got one last speaker who's going to join us, and it's Emily. Emily is from Ireland, and let's give her a big welcome. She'll finish it off today.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily. I'm not any big leader of any organization or anything like this, but I used to live in Banff and I came back 2 weeks ago, and it's just been amazing to be welcomed back with this level of solidarity, because when I left I don't know if I saw much of this. It probably was there, I just wasn't reaching out for it. I just wanted to, sorry, I'm a little nervous. I just wanted to read this piece that I actually wrote in December 2023. It's kind of just basically when, you know, gatherings like this I feel like are so important, because at the moment we're just scrolling on our phones and we're seeing news and information and everything. And when it gets all built up in our heads, we're like, what do we do with this energy, you know? You still have to work, you still have to go about your day. So I wrote this kind of reflection. It's not a poem or anything, but I've read it in Ireland and I've read it in different places. And it's kind of like very personal. I think it's nice to end because it's calm. And it's called I Think of Them. And it's kind of the concept is, instead of thinking about all the tasks that you have to do and the like jobs that you have to do, instead of thinking I have to do this, I started switching my mindset to I get to do everything. So here it goes. I think of them while I sigh because I have to brush my teeth. Actually, no longer is it a have to, it's a get to. Have to has become obsolete in my life, as I know now I don't have to do anything, I get to do everything. So while I get to brush my teeth, I think of them. And while I get to change and wash and dry my bed sheets, I think of them. While I get to complain of the cost of diesel and food and basics, I think of them. While I get to have that cold sweat come across my back as I reach the grocery store checkout, unsure if my bank account will allow for the transaction, I think of them. While I get to ring my phone network again as I've forgotten to pay my phone bill and they're hounding me for money, I think of them. While I get to set an alarm for work in the morning and count the hours of uninterrupted, safe, secure, warm, and no threat of anything sleep, I think of them. Will I get to sit at my work office desk with a rumbling tummy as I've skipped breakfast, I think of them. Will I get to do 3 or 4 loads of laundry that I've allowed to build up, accidentally spilling detergent all over my floor as I fill the machine, I think of them. Will I get to sit in traffic late for an appointment or rush to pick someone up, I think of them. Will I get to look at flights and plan my future and embrace my unlimited access to adventure, I think of them. Will I get to make a cup of decaf tea in the evening as regular keeps me awake and all I want to do is have a cup of tea? I think of them. Will I get to put out the garbage that's after ripping all over the kitchen floor? I think of them. Will I get to take a cough bottle and paracetamol for my simple cold? I think of them. Will I get to choose what socks I want to wear? I think of them. Will I get to decide if I'll read my book or watch an episode of something? I think of them. When I get to blindly try and find my glasses in the morning as I rush to work, I think of them. Will I get to decide if I'll go out or save money and stay in? I think of them. Will I get to express anger and dissatisfaction with the disgraceful healthcare system in Ireland? I think of them. Will I get to be disappointed in the country's domestic issues and foreign policies? I think of them. Will I get to be afraid when I drive on the horrendous conditions of what Irish roads is what we call it? I think of them. I no longer have to do anything. I just get to do everything. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, we've had a request for one more speaker, and it's Aya. And Aya's going to come and talk to you about the Palestinian cause. So let's welcome her.
Okay. Get really close, like this. Hello, everyone. My name is Aya Yafawi. That means Aya of Jaffa. Jaffa is currently the occupied city that Tel Aviv now sits on. I am both Palestinian and Lebanese, so I have experienced Israeli violence from both sides of my family. Today I'd like to share a poem I wrote about the violence that Lebanon specifically has experienced at the hands of the Israeli occupational forces and kind of the devastation that that has wrought. This poem is called The Cedar Tree. The cedar trees on Mount Lebanon do not speak anymore. They haven't for a long time. They used to be cedars of gods, sought after by every empire, venerated by their people. Now they stand huddled together at the base of a valley, watching their mountain crumble stone by stone, watching the ocean eat the sand away wave after wave, watching the sky darken with each passing smoke cloud. I will never know what it feels like to rest under those cedar trees, a stranger to fear. I will never know my country as it should be, clean and thriving and free. No, I rest under a different tree now, one that has syrup running in its veins, painted in the colors of autumn, immortalized, just as its brother, the cedar, on a flag, but missing the knowledge of what it is like to fall in a forest littered with fallen, where your noise is silenced by the whistle of a missile as it sails towards its mark, where children hide, separated from their parents, waiting for the earth to stop shaking. I am the descendant of those cedar trees, grown from a seed polluted and scarred. The earth and water toxic and foul, the air smelling of smoke on a good day. I sit atop that mountain where my ancestors lay and watch my homeland crumble, sink into the ocean slowly, drowning alive, watch 1,000 sunsets waiting for the final one. I trace the sprawling roots of my family here, the millions of ways they were damaged and hurt. I recite the bedtime stories of my childhood to the moon, the ones of bombs near windows and miracle escapes, of 3 children sleeping on the beach alone because the Zionist army forced them from their home, of taking back alleys and walking for miles because the roads were closed from the number of bodies filling potholes. And these were just the sensational things. Here, on the land of a mass grave, I dare not yell or disturb the dead. I dare not pound my fist into the blood-soaked earth. I dare not cry and water the trees with my tears. No. Instead, I will listen. Listen for the tree falling in the forest, the rock tumbling to the ground, the wave crashing against the shore, the earth shuddering apart, the fire crackling below, the sky cracking open. I will bear witness to the undoing of a people because that is all I can do when I am rooted to one spot but planted in another. I will extend my branches across the sea in hopes it'll shade one like me, a tree in a dying forest abandoned by the loggers, axe embedded in its side, transplanted onto foreign ground, hoping for a sapling to one day rise from its ashes. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Thank you all for coming here today. I just want to remind you all that there are 2.1 million people in Gaza starving right now. They have not been able to access humanitarian food. That is not because they have not had humanitarian food brought to their door. It is because Israel does not open the Rafah border to let in humanitarian aid. Shame! Shame! Israel has also intercepted 2 freedom flotillas, and they have kidnapped the most recent crew, and they are putting them up against a military court to decide if their actions for trying to bring food to innocent, starving populations is a war crime. Shame. I want you to remember my people, my cousins, my family, my uncles and aunts when you go out and enjoy this beautiful day, because they have to literally sit in the heat, they have to sit under the rain, and most importantly, they have to sit under bombs because there's no safe place in Gaza. So please remember them and please do something. It is for the G7 leaders that I say, you have the power, you have the responsibility. Every humanitarian organization has said that this needs to stop, that this is inhumane and a war crime. We need to let humanitarian aid into Gaza, and we need to free Palestine. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming out today. That concludes the proceedings. We invite you to have a safe trip home, and remember today.
All right, friends, I promised you we'd come back to you as soon as possible, as soon as we got some new information about this tragic accident over in India, and some new video has emerged that's changed my analysis of this accident in particular. And let me recap for you where I started on this. And basically, there's 3 camps that everybody is still in about, 48 hours almost after the original accident. Theory number 1 was that there was some sort of dual engine failure, and then the backup to that was it was either a bird strike or it was some sort of fuel contamination that led to that dual engine failure. That was theory number 1. Theory number 2 was the pilots didn't have the flaps set properly for takeoff. In other words, the flaps were up. And as they ran down the runway, they got a little bit of air, but eventually the airplane just kind of waddled down and crashed. because the flaps weren't set properly. The third theory, and the one that I was leaning to the most, and let me just say leaning to, I wasn't firmly in this camp, but I was leaning towards it, was they had the flaps set properly for takeoff. When they rotated, everything was normal. At the time that the pilot flying would ask for gear up, the other pilot mistakenly grabbed the flap handle and prematurely raised the flaps. That was, at the time, the thing that seemed most evident to me, because the landing gear stayed down for the entire duration, short as it would be, for this flight, and there was no evidence out of the engines that was there any sort of failure. No fire, no sparks, no smoke coming out of the engines. A real head scratcher on that front. And so I thought maybe it was simply they grabbed the wrong handle and prematurely raised the flaps. I was leaning heavily into that department. I'm going to change my analysis now because of this new video, and it's based on the original video that all of us watched. And we saw two main videos, the one where the airplane was running down the runway and then rotated and took off, and you saw it crash in the distance. The other one was a video that was taken from kind of a rooftop or a window, where the airplane came from left to right and then descended down out of the screen, and then you saw the fireball there. I'm going to show you that video in its original form. Now, what do I mean by that? The video that we all saw and every major news network on the planet went with was a video of a video, and the quality was extremely poor. The original that was presumably taken from an iPhone or some sort of cell phone is much sharper. It's not a terrific video by any means, but it's much sharper than the video of the other video. So what happened was some cameraman was in front of a screen watching the video play, and you can see him at the very end of it. You can actually see his shadow, and you can hear people talking in the background. So the audio is not very good, and the visual is not very good. The original is going to show us something that's going to change this whole thing. Let me run the video that I'm talking about, and you take a look at it, and then I'll talk about it after it runs. Can you hear how crisp that is? You didn't hear that. You didn't hear the actual crash on the original video. You could see it, but you didn't hear it. Why? Because there was people talking in the background. This original is much sharper. Now you're looking at it going, well, I've seen that a bunch of times. You haven't seen it this clearly a bunch of times. Now, I want to run it again, and we're going to zoom in on something, and I'm going to show you something and explain it, because this is a total game changer. Right there, my friends. Take a look. We've circled it for you. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the theory that the RAT had deployed. What's a RAT? It's a ram air turbine. It deploys on, many airplanes have it. 787 has it, 777 has it. The RAT is basically just behind the wing on the right side of the airplane. There's a little door that holds it in, and it looks like a little Evinrude motor. It's a little two-bladed prop, and the purpose of the ram air turbine is to provide electrical and hydraulic pressure for the aircraft in an extreme emergency. On the 787 in particular, there's three things that will deploy the RAT, and it deploys automatically. A massive electrical failure, a massive hydraulic failure, or a dual engine failure. So any one of those three things will cause that RAT to deploy. So up to this point, all of the theories that we've had were based on maybe one bit of solid evidence, but not two, or maybe 1.5. But, it's hard to go with a theory when you've only got like one thing to go on. I'm going to give you 3 or more for why I think the RAT deployed and why I think this was a dual engine failure. I'm firmly in that camp now. Number 1 is right here. Take a look at your screen. In the middle of the circle, you see kind of it looks like a protrusion on the belly of the aircraft. And I'm not trying to be salacious with this. It looks like a nipple at the bottom of the airplane, all right? Just underneath that, you see a little gray dot. It almost looks like an artifact on the screen. That little gray dot is the RAT. This is visual confirmation that the RAT deployed. What is that protrusion underneath the airplane? That's the door that opened to allow the RAT to come down. And you can see it here. You can see it very vividly on this screen. It's not the best. It's kind of grainy still. It's at least one bit of the puzzle here. So that's evidence number one. Now, evidence number two is with our ears, all right? Because a rat makes a very distinctive sound. And in that original video, the audio was so bad, you couldn't really catch it. But in this, the one that they were showing to us, the original one, it's much more clear. And it sounds like a prop airplane going by, or a real high-pitched squeal, because it's a two-bladed prop, and it's basically spinning at the speed of sound to produce the energy, the electrical and the hydraulic that it needs to. So let me play this. I'm going to put it on a loop. I think we're going to listen to it 3 times. Listen for that high-pitched prop sound. Remember, this is a jet. It's not a prop. As it goes by, listen. Okay, it sounded like it, if you weren't looking at it, it sounded like a single engine prop airplane just flew by. You might look up and expect to see a little Cessna going by. And in fact, it is a little bitty Cessna. It's a little bitty two-bladed prop that's spinning as fast as it possibly can. Now, the Rat was originally designed, and it's on all these airplanes, as the last resort, the absolute last resort. It's assuming that there's going to be basically a dual engine failure at altitude. Let's say you're at 30,000 feet, both engines flame out for some reason. You start descending down, you're looking for a suitable field, you're out of hydraulics and you're out of electric because both of your engines have stopped running. Maybe the auxiliary power unit isn't running, but it's not going to get you any thrust either. And so let's assume that's out. At that point, you've got to have some sort of electrical so you can talk on the radios, so you can have shoot some sort of an approach and get some sort of instrumentation in front of you. And then you have to have some sort of hydraulics to still fly the airplane. It gives you the minimum of all of those categories that I just mentioned, but it does work. But it's meant for the airplane to kind of cruise down now and find a place to land. It's not designed for an airplane that's at 400 or 500 feet and loses all power. There's no time to get the engines relit, and it's not going to provide much benefit to them, except it's evidence for us that it was a dual engine failure, most likely. Could it have been an electrical issue? Could it have been a hydraulic issue? Yeah, it could have been either one of those. But I think the fact that the airplane is now just kind of mushing out of the sky gives us the idea that it was a dual engine failure, but we can hear it. So there's confirmation number 2. We've got the visual that we can see the Rat deployed. We can hear it with our ears. And let me just give you one more confirmation on that, because there was a Japan Air 787 that landed in an emergency with the Rat deployed. So you can hear one, because you can see this clearly. So let me run that for you and listen to it. Hear that sound? It sounds just like a World War II buzzboy going right by you. It sounds like a little Cessna. And so we can see clearly on that airplane, the Rat is deployed. This one, the Air India, not so much, but it's grainy and it's in a distance. So you've got the oral, right? You've got the visual, grainy as it might be. What is the third clue here that they had a dual engine failure? The third is this, the eyewitness report. You go, wait a minute, what do you mean eyewitness report? There was one survivor from this crash. Unbelievably miraculous that this guy, he literally walked away from the crash. He's been confirmed it wasn't a hoax. He was in seat 11A. He was right by an emergency exit, a few rows in front of the spar of the wing of the aircraft. I think that spar saved his life, because that's the strongest, heaviest part of the airplane. That's probably what took the impact when they hit those buildings. He was in his seat. He didn't go unconscious. He gets out of, he opens up the door and he jumps out of the airplane, right? And he's literally walking to the hospital after that. They've talked to him, and he said just prior to the crash, he heard a loud bang, and the lights flickered on the inside of the airplane. Now, that bit of evidence all by itself, it's not all that compelling, because you go, the guy's been through a really traumatic thing, and, you know, he could have imagined it. It could have been he hit something on the way down, the airplane did. That's the most unreliable, an eyewitness. But We need to combine that now with the visual on the rat being deployed, the oral that we heard the rat when it went by, briefly as it was, and now we've got a guy saying he heard a loud bang and the lights flickered. What would cause that? The deployment of the rat. And then it's going to take over electrical and hydraulic. And as it does that, the lights in the airplane would flicker. So there's the third bit of evidence. What's 3.5 or the fourth? I've heard, but I haven't heard the ATC audio yet, but I've heard reports that the captain got out a Mayday call. And when he did his Mayday call, he said they were losing thrust or something to that effect. So that could be a possible fourth evidence that they had a dual engine failure. That gives us a tremendous amount of clarity now at this point. So I'm going to put at least in second place the idea that the co-pilot raised the flaps prematurely. And that might end up in third place on the theories. I'm solidly now in the camp that they had some sort of dual engine failure. The rat is deployed. You can hear the rat. You've got eyewitness testimony that something loud banged underneath the airplane. It was probably the rat. With all of those things being said, I think it's pretty clear. It gives us a lot of clarity. Let me put it that way. It gives us a lot of clarity. And at the same time, it sends us completely back to square one. Why is that? Because we have no idea why both engines on a 787 would flame out right after rotate. No clue whatsoever. There is a thing called Aviation Herald. They came out with a report now over in India. Their initial report, and you can see it at their website. It's Aviation Herald is what it's called. You can see their report. They ruled out a few things. One of them was bird strike because they said they inspected the runway and there was no dead birds on the runway. We can run that one out. They also said, though, that they didn't think it was a dual engine failure, which I think they probably got that wrong at this point. And they also said they didn't think it was pilot error. So I think 2 out of 3 from that report are pretty accurate. The dual engine failure goes right up now to priority number 1 or theory number 1 with the 4 bits of evidence I've given you today. Folks, I hope that the black box data tells us why both engines would fail at the same time, but I have no clue. Fuel contamination, it's one of the possibilities, but you know what? There's more, and I'm going to leave the door wide open to what else could have happened to cause both engines on a 787 to flame out at the same time. It's a real head scratcher at this point. We've got some clarity, though, today on what actually happened based on 4 hard bits of information. Thanks for hanging with me on this one, folks. There's probably more to come. Now you know. I'm Captain Steve. Fly safe. So the most critical phase of flight is the takeoff, and the most critical phase of the takeoff is right when the airplane reaches rotate speed. Rotate is when I pull back on the yoke and we go flying. If I lose an engine then, it's a big deal. Watch what happened in Denver here recently.
United 2325. Every once in a while, a little burst of flame coming out the right engine.
Hey, firm, we think we lost our right motor, United 2325.
Okay, so United 2325 has just lost their right engine. It's going to turn out that they ingested a rabbit, of all things, into that right engine. You might wonder, how in the world could they ingest a rabbit into that right engine? I'll talk to you about that in a minute, but let's see what happens next.
United 2325, Roger. And imagine that you just want to get worked in for a long pattern with the Traycons, thinking you can run your checklist.
Firm, United 2325.
Okay, so the air traffic controller knows that these guys have a lot going on. They've got to run through a whole bunch of checklists. And so the first thing he says is, hey, do you guys want a longer pattern to come back in? Now, you might think, well, don't they want to get back to the airport as quickly as possible? Hey, the airplane flies just fine on one engine. They want to make sure that they get the fire contained in the one that is bad. And it sounds like it's about to be under control. And they need to get all of their checklists done so that they don't create a secondary problem. So it's going to take a little longer than just a quick run back to the airport. They've got checklists to run. Let's see what they do.
United 2325, contact approach 126.1, and they'll work you back around. They know you're coming.
126.1, United 2325.
So this is a Boeing 737 out of Denver's International Airport. They were headed up to Edmonton in Canada. Obviously, they're not going to make it. They're on their way back now to land at Denver. Denver is a high-altitude airport. They're going to get cleared to about 9,000 feet here, which sounds like wow, that's pretty high. Actually, Denver itself is almost at 6,000 feet. So it's really only 3,000 to 4,000 feet above the ground. They're going to keep them kind of low as they're coming back around so that they don't waste too much time coming back into the pattern. But they're going to get back on the ground here in just a few minutes. And in a minute, I'll tell you my rabbit story.
Okay, 2225, you want to return to Denver?
Yeah, there's fire on our wing.
Okay, 2225, Roger, turn on right heading 100.
Right heading 100, United 2325.
Okay, 2225, if able, maintain at 9,000, if necessary.
All right, we'll bring it up to 9,000 as we can, yeah, 2325.
Okay, they're on one engine, so their climb is not going to be as aggressive as it would be with two engines, so it might take them a little while to get up there. These guys said you've got fire on their right wing, so apparently somebody in the back is calling them up and saying there's still sparks coming out or flames coming out of that engine. Most of those engines are designed to contain any sort of fire. So they're trying to get the lights in the cockpit to go out to say the fire is contained. They're also getting verification from the flight attendants in the back of the airplane. All of that stuff needs to get handled as the first priority. The next priorities are what we call in the industry 2 out and 2 in. What are 2 out and 2 in? All right. 2 out are this. I need to declare an emergency with ATC. In that case, I need to tell them how many souls are on board, what my fuel state is, and what my intentions are. They're going to do all of that here in a minute. The other one is dispatch at my company. I need to communicate with them and let them know I'm returning back to the airport and to have people waiting there to accommodate us when we get back on the ground. So those are the 2 people I need to talk to out. What are the 2 in? I need to talk to my passengers and I need to talk to my flight attendants. I'm going to talk to the flight attendants first. I'm going to call the number 1 flight attendant and say, we're coming right back to Denver. Obviously, you can see the flames coming out of the right engine. How long until we get on the ground? Probably less than 15 minutes. Put all your stuff away and prepare. We don't intend to evacuate, but if that changes, I'll let you know. So I'm giving them all of my intentions in what I think they need to get prepared for. The other is the passengers. The passengers now see it. They've all got their phones out at this point. They're all talking amongst themselves. I need to reassure the passengers. And so I'm going to come on with that reassuring voice and say, hey, folks, it's me, your captain. Here's what's going on. The airplane flies just fine on. So the most critical phase of flight